Hi, my name is Mike, and I'd like to tell you about new features and product improvements that became available in the 5.6 release of the DLS Hosted PBX. We will also cover other changes and product enhancements in this video. Here's a summary of what's new in this version. Integration with the Salesforce CRM underwent a significant overhaul. Our license-free desktop communicator application for Mac and Windows received many new features and an improved user interface. PBX contacts can now be imported and exported in an industry-standard vCard format. Bulk provisioning has been added to phone provisioning, which is useful when you need to provision handsets for several users at the same time. Mirrored Extensions Presence Keys, also known as Busy Lamp Fields or BLF, no longer must match your primary device. DLS Meeting Room Video Conferencing and Collaboration Service underwent a significant transformation with many new enhancements, features, and stability improvements. A new Qcallback feature can now offer an option to save the caller's place in the queue and call them back when an agent becomes available. Users of SMS can now comply with the regulations by using blacklists and honoring SMS stop requests. DLS Hosted PBX 5.6 has adopted a stir-shaken framework to combat spoofed robocalls with a caller ID authentication and is now compliant with the FCC order. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that the changelog, which can be found in the Hosted PBX support menu, contains a complete list of all changes. Integration with the Salesforce. To begin, let's look at the adjustments we've made to our Salesforce integration. Those who have used Salesforce for a while are probably familiar with the new Lightning user interface. The Lightning platform, commonly referred to as the Lightning Experience, is Salesforce's most recent CRM user interface, or UI reskin. Compared to Salesforce Classic, Lightning gives administrators and consultants more options for customizing the appearance, feel, functionality, and automation of a Salesforce instance without changing your existing data or system architecture. The platform has been around since 2015, but it has only lately acquired traction. DLS Hosted PBX's new integrated Salesforce dialer provides an easy way to click to dial, take call notes, mark call disposition, and associate calls events with existing or new contacts, accounts, tasks, leads, or opportunities. You can also conveniently access a list of recent calls and associated call recordings from the PBX via this dialer. Let's go through the setup process, shall we? Before setting up an integrated Salesforce dialer, you must first ensure that the Salesforce integration module is enabled in the PBX. Go to the System Billing menu from the main menu and make sure the Salesforce module is turned on. If it isn't, contact DLS Technical Support or your DLS account representative to get it activated. The steps to set up Salesforce integration are outlined in the DLS Hosted PBX manual, accessible via a DLS Hosted PBX Help menu. Our first step in the process is setting up a Salesforce call center. Access your Hosted PBX manual and copy and paste a small XML source into a local file that you can save. Now, proceed to the Setup section of your Salesforce interface and search for the Call Centers menu. Open this menu and import the XML file you have just saved. Now that you have created a call center, you will need to add your Salesforce users to it. Click on Manage Users and follow the steps to add users to your call center. In the second step, we will define softphone layout. Open Salesforce Setup again, and this time search for the Softphone Layouts menu. Add missing objects to ensure that your default softphone has access to Contact, Account, Lead, Case, Task, and Opportunity. Additionally, add the Call Object Identifier field to the Task object and a description field to the Opportunity object. With the softphone layout customized, we can now give it a name and save it as default. The third and final step involves adding our softphone to any Lightning-enabled Salesforce app we want to use with the DLS Hosted PBX. For example, let's add softphone to the Sales Console application. Open Apps App Manager in the right-hand side menu. Select any Lightning-enabled app in the left-hand side list of Salesforce apps. In our case, we will select Sales Console. Right-click on the drop-down arrow icon at the rightmost item. Then, click Edit. This will open a new page in the Object Manager. Select Utility Items on the left side menu and add a utility item. Select Open CTI Softphone from the given list. Once added, set your panel width to 400 and panel height to 500 pixels. You are now ready to start using the DLS hosted PBX phone within the Salesforce application. When you use your Salesforce Dialer application for the first time, you will need to enter your DLS hosted PBX login credentials and make sure that you allow this browser-based application access to your speakers and microphone. We've finished setting up our Salesforce integration, and now it's time to show you how to use it. Let's review two examples. In the first example, you can see that an incoming call is answered by your desktop Communicator softphone. As you begin speaking to an incoming caller, your Salesforce dialer pops up an activity screen affiliated with the corresponding contact identified by the caller ID. Here, you can take notes regarding this call, mark its disposition, such as completed, missed, needs follow-up, or send quote, and use a wrap call function to end the call and store its information with the contact as an associated activity. When you enter the list of activities, you will be able to retrieve information about this call and access a call detail record containing a link to the call recording, assuming that you have enabled recording for this call. In our second scenario, we'll be getting a call from a new phone number that isn't in your CRM. You can now use this call to add a new contact with the associated phone number into the Salesforce database. It is important to mention that the DLS hosted PBX 5.6 Salesforce integration has become an optional, modestly priced billable module. This module will remain in active development, and we are confident that you will find it competitively priced compared to other solutions with similar functionality. Evolution of Desktop Communicator. Another highlight of the 5.6 release is a significantly upgraded version of our online communicator, dubbed Desktop Communicator, to reflect its ability to function on both PC and Mac desktops. The desktop communicator can now handle up to 5 simultaneous calls, bridge any 2 of them into a quick 3-way call, and conveniently access call history and recordings. You can quickly arrange your contacts to show as BLF keys, and you can see if your PBX contacts are present and if they are on a call. To get started with DLS Hosted PBX 5.6 Desktop Communicator, go to Apps, Desktop Communicator, and download and install the software. If you already have a previous version installed, you'll want to replace it with a new one. You will have to manually change the operating system permissions on your computer to allow the application to execute, because it is still not signed. Our heartfelt apologies. Let's look at the new desktop communicator interface. The left sidebar consists of 3 vertical tabs for calls, messages, and voicemail indicator. Calls and Messages tabs are further divided into vertical tabs for Favorites, Recent, and Contacts. Your assigned BLF keys are in the Favorites tab. The Recent tab allows you to access your call log and call recordings quickly. You can listen to or download your recorded calls from this tab. Contacts is a collection of personal information, company directories, and system functions. Another addition to the desktop communicator is SMS Messaging. A number bar with access to the classic dial pad is on the right side of the communicator layout. You may also utilize the number bar to pull up a contact or feature code fast. You can use Desktop Communicator to permanently forward your calls or put all your users' devices in Do Not Disturb mode. Remember that enabling Do Not Disturb will silence all mirrors and primary devices associated with the user. Contacts. Let's talk about the change we've made to the PBX Contacts. If you look at the Contacts app in the PBX UI, you will see that contacts are detailed and include fields beyond a simple phone number. You can now store occupational information, such as title and company name, multiple phone numbers tagged as mobile, work, home, fax, or pager, personal and work emails and website URLs, home, work, mailing, or billing addresses. Finally, you can store any special notes associated with a contact. The contacts can also be easily exported or imported, both individually and in bulk, using industry standard vCard format. Creating contacts is easy, whether you need to add one or multiple contacts. You can edit contact details and delete detail fields that are not desired by selecting them for deletion and then clicking Save Changes and Delete Selected button. Contacts can be imported and exported from the App's Contacts menu. You can also use the Contact Details Editor to merge and update contact details from a vCard file. When importing a vCard from the contact editor, you should be careful because the editor will add all the vCard information to the currently selected contact and overwrite all occupational information and notes. To import a contact, click on the Import button and choose the vCard contact file to be uploaded. This file may contain a single contact or a group of contacts. Exporting one or multiple contacts into the vCard file can be done from the Apps Contacts menu. For added convenience, you can export a single contact from the Contact Editor screen. Bulk device provisioning. Every PBX administrator who had to provision user devices, such as handsets or ATAs, for a group of users, be it a tenant or a company department, will appreciate this feature. Admittedly, adding user devices was not intuitive. The problem has now been addressed by introducing a new, optimized Device Manager interface that lets you quickly add devices. To access this interface, navigate to System, Devices. To create multiple devices, simply fill out device information and click the Add Device button to add new devices continually. You can also quick edit devices using this form. In addition to adding devices in quick succession, you can also import them as a comma-separated file. The guide containing detailed file format is available in the DLS Hosted PBX manual and reference guide. Importing a CSV file will pre-populate the Device Manager screen with the list of devices, allowing you to quickly go over it and make necessary changes before saving imported devices in the Device Manager database. When provisioning user devices, it is important to remember that while most devices require a unique MAC address, some phone models may support multiple lines or handsets and share a MAC of a base station device. A good example of such a device could be a Grandstream 710, which uses a MAC of a Grandstream 715 base station, as depicted here. Independent soft keys for mirrored extensions. Those who use mirrored extensions to receive calls in multiple locations are accustomed to mirrored extensions with the same settings as your primary ones. But what if you have two different phone models? What if your office phone has 15 programmable soft keys, also known as BLF keys, but your mirror, located at home or a different business location, only has 4 programmable soft keys? In this release, we've made them independently programmable from your contacts page. If you have 2 identical phone models, you don't need to worry. Your settings are copied from the primary extension to the mirror by default. However, you now have this option to program your mirrored extension keys differently from your primary extension. To make a change to the mirror's BLF key, navigate to the Apps Contacts menu. Find the Target Mirror drop-down list and use it to edit the BLF key for the mirrored extension you wish to program independently. Now you can assign features to your soft keys, which we loosely refer to as BLF keys on the PBX interface, as we show here. Suppose later you decide to use matching phones for your primary and mirrored extensions. In that case, all you must do is click on the Use Primary Keys button in the Target Mirror section, and both phones will have matching BLF following your primary extension. DLS Meeting Room Changes. DLS Meeting Room has been decoupled from the conferencing application and turned into a separate PBX app in version 5.6. Users can access the Meeting Room scheduler via the Apps menu. The app allows you to schedule both one-time and recurring meetings. A new feature of the DLS Meeting Room lets you record your web meetings. This is convenient if you want to record a training webinar that some of your users cannot attend in real time. Users who participate in meetings via a phone call can be directed to dial into the meeting room using a designated phone number. Adding a phone number for the meeting room is a two-step process. First, each tenant can assign a phone number to a meeting in the System Basic settings. You can set more than one number if you want. A meeting room number must be configured in the routing tree in the second step, as shown here. Alternatively, you can call your main office number and use a feature code to access the meeting room voice menu. If you want your system configured this way, you can skip the first step and use your primary phone number along with the meeting room's feature code as an extension. This extension will appear in meeting invitations. You can now use the meeting room portal letsmeet.dls.net to access some of the more advanced meeting room features. Meeting organizers can access their meeting schedules and view upcoming meetings from this page. They can also create and edit meeting schedules, generate recordings of past meetings, and attach documents to upcoming meetings. A more capable agenda editor allows you to generate agenda documents using rich text. Meeting organizers can create a poll and distribute it to all attendees. Meeting organizers can also keep an address book of meeting attendees. In the hosted PBX 5.6, the Rocket Chat server integrates with the DLS meeting room. When you use Rocket Chat, typing "Let's Meet" in any chat channel or private forum will generate a link to an impromptu ad hoc meeting. To round out the DLS meeting room changes, I must mention the Outlook scheduling plugin available on the DLS Hosted PBX meeting room page. An Office 365 administrator can install the plugin for individuals or the entire organization. Meetings can be scheduled directly from your Outlook application. Qcallback. IVR, or Interactive Voice Response Systems, provide a feature called Qcallback, which is also known as an automatic callback or a callback queue. Contact centers utilize this to allow callers to save their place in the queue and receive a call back when an agent becomes available. Qcallback also enables queue administrators to select a callback time window for calls. Most clients despise waiting in call queues and may become irritated if kept in one for an extended period. A Qcallback can help avoid this, improving customer experience and lowering the contact center's call abandonment rate. Let's look at how the Qcallback works. Once set up for the queue, the system will offer the caller to drop out of the ACD queue while retaining their original position and be called back once their place is at the top of the queue. Here are the call flow steps of a sample phone queue callback. 1. Once in the queue, the caller will hear a message offering a callback. Queue administrators can set up a periodic announcements message on the queue settings page. 2. To request a callback, the caller must push 1. After selecting 1, the caller will be given the option of being called back on the same number they dialed or entering a new callback number. 3. The caller would have 3 chances to enter the number if they decided to enter a different number. The number needs to be a valid 10-digit number. 4. The caller will hang up, and the system will save their position in the queue by placing a dummy call in the place of the original call. 5. The system will call the number back once the dummy call is at the top of the queue and an agent answers that call. 6. If the caller picks the call up, the system will ask to confirm if they can take the call or not. 7. If the caller opts to connect via option 1, the system will connect the caller to the agent. 8. If the caller chooses IVR option 2, the system will drop the call, free up the agent for the next call, and attempt to call back later based on an interval in the Qcallback settings. To enable the callback function for any queue, choose Qcallback Fallout Context in the Fallout section of the queue settings. We are going to review Qcallback settings. Callback confirmation timeout is the amount of time the system will wait for the caller to either accept or reject a callback. After the timeout, the system will hang up the call, free up the agent, and mark the call as declined. Time to wait between call retries sets the delay for the callback attempts to a caller. After this number of minutes, the system will attempt the next call. Callback retries is the number of times the system will reattempt to call back if the initial attempt was not picked up or declined. Time start, time end, days allow the queue administrator to restrict callback to only occur during the specified period, such as office business hours. You can also configure your custom audio prompts. The callback system allows PBX queue administrators to assign audio prompts from the hosted PBX system recordings pool or use the system's default audio prompts. Confirm prompt is played when the caller requests the callback. Number prompt plays to confirm a callback number. Invalid number prompt is an error message played when the number entered is not valid. Invalid number final prompt is an error message played when the caller has failed to confirm a valid callback number 3 times and the call is about to be sent back to the queue. Secondary number prompt asks the caller to enter a callback number other than the one identified from his caller ID. Callback prompt is played to the caller when the system calls them back. Accept prompt is asking the caller to accept the callback. Another valuable feature of the Qcallback is SMS notifications. Enable SMS templates enables or disables SMS notifications to the caller regarding callback events. SMS from is the PBX extension originating SMS. The following 3 fields govern the content of the messages sent to the callers. When a field is empty, this indicates to the system that the system will not use this notification. Queue administrators also have the option to override default messages with custom ones. Callback confirmation SMS is the body of the message sent to callers who request callbacks. Retrying SMS is the body of a message sent to the caller when an attempt to call back failed. Giving up SMS refers to the body of the message sent to the caller after the maximum number of callback attempts have failed. SMS unsubscribe lists. The CAN-SPAM Act prohibits businesses from sending unsolicited text messages to cell phone numbers and mandates that any commercial communication is plainly recognizable as such by the recipient. Consumers must also be allowed to opt out of getting marketing texts. To assist our clients in complying with the legislation, we devised a method of automatically adding numbers to the blacklist from whom we have received SMS stop messages. We presently only support the term stop, but we hope to expand our options in the future. If a user attempts to send an outbound text message to a phone number on this list, the system will not transmit the message. Let's take a closer look at this feature. Click System, SMS, Unsubscribe to get these lists. The feature is tenant-specific, as you can see from the menu. 3 settings control the SMS system's behavior. 1. Disallow texting unsubscribers prevents the SMS system from sending SMS to numbers on the blacklist. 2. Auto unsubscribe determines whether the phone number provided by the stop keyword is automatically added to the tenant's SMS unsubscribe blacklist. 3. Auto reply will send an SMS confirmation of opt-out to the message originator. Please keep in mind that once a phone number is on the blacklist and disallow texting unsubscribers is on, the tenant will be unable to send messages to any number on the SMS blacklist from any tenant-owned phone number. If an attempt to send a message is made, the system will send an SMS response to inform the sender the number is on an unsubscribe list. Sending a stop message is not the only way to add a number to the list. Using the SMS unsubscribers interface, a tenant administrator can manually add numbers. Administrators can export the blacklist as a comma-separated file, and we'll make sure to include an import function on the next version. The administrator of DLS Hosted PBX can also force some or all tenants to use the default tenant's unsubscribe list. Beginning with version 5.6, DLS has implemented the Stir Shaken protocol. You can get more information about Stir Shaken and how it may impact your ability to operate and forward calls by accessing our blog articles at www.dls.net/blog. There are no configurable settings for the Stir Shaken protocol. However, many changes went under the hood. You must note that it is no longer practical to forward inbound calls from non-DLS phone numbers while preserving their caller ID information. Small enhancements. We addressed several of our customers' concerns to improve the usability of the user interface while working on the new release. These changes, albeit minor and inconsequential, are worth noting. Users can no longer edit authorization ID. System administrators responsible for creating and deleting PBX users will note that this unique user identification can no longer be updated, starting with DLS Hosted PBX 5.6. This ID is now generated automatically when a new user is created. In the user preferences, it is still visible. This update is unlikely to affect your user experience or ability to add or remove users in any way. However, using another person's extension for a new employee will be impossible without first deleting the extension from the system. Paging announcement. Making paging announcements over PBX has become a little faster in version 5.6. The announcer can now use the pound key to skip a long prompt. We did this at the request of a fire department customer, but it will benefit anyone who uses paging. Operator panels no longer require separate login. We've eliminated the need to log into the operator panel after already logging into the PBX web UI. Routing tree appearance. We've started adding color and tooltips to the call routing functions to make it easier to see routing trees. Schedules are a common function used in call routing steps. Steps that are not active when the page is loaded will seem inactive in the user interface and grayed out. When you hover your mouse over the schedule name, a tooltip will appear describing the schedule. Routing steps for interactions with the calling party. The DLS Hosted PBX routing tree now has 2 new routing steps with this addition. By sending informative SIP replies to the calling party, these stages enable greater control of incoming call flow. Ringing and session progress are 2 new answers. The 180 ringing message is a provisional or informative answer that indicates that the user agent has received the invite message and that alerting has begun. The 183 session progress answer indicates that the message body media information contains information on the call state. Please keep in mind that these routing steps are only effective if your PBX administrator disables the auto answer feature for the routing tree branch's phone number. We've also included a variety of customizable hang-up codes that you can send to the calling party. Please keep in mind that making changes to the routing tree should be done with great care and by a qualified specialist. If in doubt, call DLS Technical Support. PBX UI Access Denial or Logout. It is now possible to sign a user out of their PBX User Interface session in DLS Hosted PBX 5.6. To do so, go to the User Preferences and select Sign Out on the User Preference Editor page. In our example, you can see a user session in the browser opened on the left side of the screen and a PBX administrator signing out his session on the right side. When a web UI password is reset, users will be automatically signed out. Remember that online sessions belonging to users relying on LDAP authentication will be unaffected by password reset. DLS Technical Support can also perform bulk sign-out of all PBX or PBX tenant users' sessions from the web UI. Please keep in mind that this function does not impact users' access to their handsets or voicemail. If you want to lock the user out of their handset, you must disable their extension. Logging into individual queues. In all prior versions of the DLS hosted PBX, an agent would automatically be logged into all the ACD queues that he or she is a part of. While this behavior continues to be the default, beginning with version 5.6, you can now change it in System, Basic, Settings to prompt an agent to log into each queue individually. To conclude this training video, I'd like to say that everyone here at DLS is not only excited to bring you these new features, but we're already looking ahead to the following steps on our product development roadmap. While we're on the subject of the roadmap, you can always find it, along with the release notes, in our support area at www.dls.net/support. Please keep in mind that we are ready to answer any questions you may have as your company begins to use these new capabilities. You can reach our technical support team by dialing 847-854-4799, option 1. Thank you for your unwavering support.